For the best prices and service on Pokemon TCG singles and products, check out ccgcastle.com and use promo code Evolutionaries-5 for 5% off your next order.
Hello, Pokemon fans! I'm Professor K for the Pokemon Evolutionaries, and today we have another Deck Tech Thursday for you guys. This week, we're going to be doing a deck profile on a new archetype that's come up in the format very recently, and that is Garbodor Drampa. Now, at first, this deck really didn't seem to make a lot of sense to me until I realized what stadium was being played and how much pressure can be applied without even having to necessarily rely on Garbodor. It's just kind of there for a late game sweep and also forces your opponent to play items so that it can come in and hit for large amounts of damage for a single energy. So before I get into too much detail about how this deck works, let's go ahead and take a look at what cards are in this deck, and then we will discuss it a bit further about what this deck can do in this format. So first and foremost, I just want to say this list is based off of what I saw from Justin Kulas at a League Cup that I was judging in Tampa, Florida. Now, this list may not be exactly right on, but then again, I didn't ask him for his list, so this is just kind of me taking a guess at what mystery cards might be in there that I didn't remember off the bat. So first off, we're going to take a look at Trubbish here. This is the Trubbish from Breakpoint, and it has a single attack, Acid Spray. It does 10 damage, and you flip a coin. If heads, you discard an energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. So the neat thing about this is that you can apply some pressure just by energy denial by using this Trubbish since you're already running Psychic Energy. It's got 70 HP. It's a pretty decent tanky basic Pokemon considering that it does have an evolved form. So it's not necessarily going to get one-shotted right away. 70 is a little bit tougher of a number to hit, but there is that. We have 4 of those. Also, we've got 3 of the Trashalanche Garbodor from Guardians Rising. Now, this is a pretty unique attack here. The very first one is Trashalanche. Does 20 damage, and it does 20 damage times the number of item cards in your opponent's discard pile. So essentially what this Garbodor does is it punishes your opponent for having items in their discard, for using items to set up their side of the board and advance their game state. So 20 damage with 10 item cards in the discard pile, 200 damage. It's really not that hard to get 10 items in an opponent's discard pile. If you think about how many items are played in a deck, especially by turn 3, 4, 5, you've got a lot in there as an opponent. It's got 120 HP, pretty decent tanky Pokemon there. And it also has Acid Spray as well for 70 damage. And it has it's 3 energy requirements, so you really don't want to ever be using this attack. But if you have to, you have to. But Trashalanche is your main go-to attack, and that is going to be your 20 damage times the number of items. I really don't foresee you ever using the Acid Spray on the second Pokemon as much as the first. If you go second and you can't evolve, then it's a good way to stall out your opponent a little bit. Also, we have 1 Garbodor from Breakpoint, which is the one that shuts off your opponent's abilities. It has 100 HP instead of 120, and if there's a tool card attached to it, it shuts off every ability on both sides of the field, except for Garbotoxin. We've seen this around for a long time, so we already know what that Garbodor does. And to go alongside of it, we have 3 copies of Drampa GX. 180 HP, big basic Pokemon. Has 2 attacks that are really good, and its GX attack can be very good if your opponent doesn't have a way to get those cards out of your hand. So first attack here is Righteous Edge. It does 20 damage, and you discard a special energy attached to your opponent's Pokemon. We saw one other Pokemon have this attack in an EX form, and that was Cobalion EX from Plasma Storm, which was a pretty good attack too for a metal energy. And this is no different. So this is colorless. You can attach any type of energy attached to it. And you can use any type of energy attached to it for its fulfillment. And again, stalling out your opponent, getting rid of special energy, setting up your board state. Also, the second attack, really great attack, 3 energy, Berserk. Does 80 damage, and if your benched Pokemon have any damage counters on them, this attack does 70 more damage. Again, once you see how this deck works, you'll understand that this is something that's very easy to accomplish, and that's 150 damage. Put a choice band on it, you're hitting for 180. That's applying pressure like crazy. Also, its GX attack here is Big Wheel GX. You're going to shuffle your hand into your deck and draw 10 cards. This is essentially a Colress for Max without a Skyfield. Lots and lots and lots of cards to be drawn here. As long as your opponent doesn't end you out of it, you are perfectly fine, and you've got a lot of cards to work with on your next turn. All right, next Pokemon. We've got 3 copies of Tapu Lele GX. It's a good attacker. You're already using double colorless energy in this deck, so Energy Drive is a pretty darn good attack. But it also has a great ability as well in Wonder Tag. When you play this Pokemon from your card onto your bench during your turn, you may search your deck for a supporter card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. So this is an amazing card for getting what you need as far as supporters go. It's a great attacker as far as Energy Drive goes. Granted, you're not hitting it for weakness, but you're doing 20 damage times the amount of energy attached to both Tapu Lele and your opponent's active Pokemon. And also Tapu Cure GX, you have access to that, where you can heal all damage from 2 of your benched Pokemon. Again, pretty good. So 3 of those. And we have a single copy of Shaman EX, just strictly for the setup ability. We can also utilize Sky Return if need be, because we do use double colorless. So every one of the attacks that these Pokemon use are essentially in play thanks to the kind of energy that we're running. Lots and lots of synergy, lots and lots of just options in general to make this work. I saw Justin Kulas pilot this deck to an undefeated victory until the very end in the finals. So he went 6-1-1 with this deck. Pretty solid. All right, let's move on to our supporter lineup here. We've got 4 copies of Professor Sycamore. Discard your hand and draw 7 cards. Again, pretty standard draw supporter. Usually decks will run 3 to 4 of these for the most part. Also, we've got 3 copies of N. Each player shuffles his or her hand into his or her deck and draws a number of cards equal to the amount of prize cards that they have remaining. We also have 2 copies of Lysander. Switch one of your opponent's benched Pokemon with one of his or her active Pokemon. So we got 2 of those just to get something into the active that we want to take out. Mostly for 2 prizes is the best option, as opposed to taking single prizes, or maybe we just can't take a knockout and we can on something else. No matter what, Lysander, of course, is a fantastic card. We got 1 copy of Delinquent. Discard any stadium card in play, and your opponent will have to discard 3 cards from their hand. A Delinquent to 0 can be devastating. So that is a great card for that purpose. Single copy of Hex Maniac. As you can see, you don't have a ton of abilities really here to worry about necessarily. This does what this does. If you've already used Wonder Tag, oh well. If you've already used Setup, oh well, that's fine. Until the end of your opponent's next turn, each Pokemon in play, each player's hand, and in each player's discard pile has no abilities. And that includes Pokemon includes cards that comes into play on that turn. So Hex shuts off all abilities. If Garb isn't out, it shuts off everything else. All right, next up. Single copy of Olympia. Switch your active Pokemon with one of your benched Pokemon. If you do, heal 30 damage from the Pokemon that you moved to the bench. Lots of retreat costs here that might be a concern. Garbodor has 3 retreat cost. This Garbodor has a 3 retreat cost. And Drampa has a 2 retreat cost. Sometimes you get something stuck in the active that requires more energy to discard to retreat than you would like. Tapu Lele and Shaman, single energy, not so bad. But these guys, specifically Garb, have a very high retreat cost. So Olympia will help you get that out of the active and heal some damage from it too at the same time. All right, onto our items. We've got 4 copies of VS Seeker. Put a supporter card from your discard pile into your hand. Of course, this is pretty standard. Some decks are running less VS Seeker because of Vileplume, but I think 4 is still pretty close to the standard. Of course, you're always welcome to mess with this deck as much as you'd like to change that up. We've got 4 copies of Ultra Ball. Discard 2 cards from your hand and search your deck for a Pokemon. Reveal it, put it into your hand. So again, this is your way of searching out Pokemon for the deck. We also have 3 copies of Choice Band. So Choice Band you can attach to any kind of Pokemon, and the attacks of the Pokemon this card is attached to do 30 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon, GX or EX, before applying weakness and resistance. So this is where I was talking that Berserk can do 180 damage. Trashalanche can do 50 damage, or 30 damage plus whatever else is here. If there's 1 item, 50 damage, can do 70 damage for 2. Just keeps going up from there. Acid Spray, I saw this happen, and this was really entertaining. I saw a Trubbish with a Choice Band. Justin had a single Psychic Energy on it, Acid Sprayed for 40 on a Hoopa EX for weakness, Acid Spray for 80. It was really funny. Sometimes you just get that overpowered attack like that, manage to knock it out pretty quickly. So there's 3 copies of Choice Band. We got 2 copies of Float Stone. This is where you're going to put onto your Garbodor to shut off abilities. Also, you can attach it to one of your Garbs to retreat, or your Drampas, whatever the case is. You have 2 copies of Float Stone for retreating purposes. We also have 2 copies of Field Blower, fantastic card. Discard or choose up to 2 in any combination of Pokemon tool and stadium cards in play, yours or your opponent's, and discard them. So you can get rid of your own tools, you can get rid of your opponent's tools, you can get rid of your stadium, your opponent's stadium, whatever you like on either side of the board, any combination whatsoever. We also have a single copy of Escape Rope for retreating purposes as well. You're going to have to switch out your active, and so is your opponent, with one of their benched and one of your benched. You get to choose yours, they get to choose theirs. Single copy of Rescue Stretcher. Put a Pokemon from your discard pile into your hand, or shuffle 3 Pokemon from your discard pile into your deck. Again, you're talking about lower HP Pokemon. You can shuffle them back in that way, or you can get one out that you might need to get back. Single copy of Super Rod. Shuffle 3 in any combination of Pokemon and basic energy from your discard pile back into your deck. This is going to be the way to get back your Psychic Energy. And also, if you just got, like I said, Pokemon in your discard pile that you want to put back into your deck, you can do so. Next up here, we have a single copy of Altar of the Moon. The retreat cost of each Pokemon, both yours and your opponent's, that has any Psychic or Dark Energy attached to it is 2 colorless energy less. So essentially, this is going to give free retreat to Trubbish, Drampa, Tapu Lele, and Shaman, as long as a Psychic Energy is attached to any of these, and the retreat cost for Garbodors will only be 1. Sounds pretty good. Now, the other reason why I was talking about how Berserk can be really, really good and very easy to make happen is because of this stadium right here. Team Magma's Secret Base. Whenever any player puts a basic Pokemon, except for Team Magma Pokemon, from his or her hand onto his or her bench, put 2 damage counters on that Pokemon. So in the same respect that you are going to build up damage by using this in a Gyarados deck, you can also use it in this deck. Because if you have Team Magma Secret Base out and you put down a Lele or a Shaman or a Trubbish, you can put 2 damage counters on that, and Drampa GX can hit Berserk for 80 plus 70 because your benched Pokemon has a damage counter on it. In this case, 2 damage counters. So that's 150, Choice Band 180. You are applying some serious pressure with Drampa GX, and your opponent is going to have to be digging because you probably have already used Righteous Edge to discard a special energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. Maybe you Acid Sprayed. They got to get that energy. They got to get something going. They got to advance their game state because Drampa is going to come in and wipe everything out that has 150 HP or less without the tool and 180 HP or less with the tool Choice Band. And if you don't, well, guess what? Here comes Garb to come back in with Trashalanche to hit you for huge amounts of damage. I've seen it go all the way up to, well, over almost 400 damage, I believe it was. Close to 400 damage, 20 items in the discard pile. This deck alone, I mean, plays 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 18 item cards. That right there, 18 times 2, let's see, that's 200, that's 360? Yeah, 360 damage for a single Psychic Energy. And if you're weak, 720? Holy cow, that is absolutely crazy. So, Garbodor is very, very powerful. It's a great way to apply pressure to your opponent and force them to either choose to play items or get completely wiped out by Drampa. It's very solid. And our energy lineup here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Psychic Energy, 1, 2, 3, 4 double colorless. Actually, on second thought, I apologize, there's only 7 energy. I just realized, I knew that I only had 7 here. For some reason, I must have snuck an 8th one in here. But there is 7 Psychic Energy in the deck, because without it, it gives us 61 cards. I had to make a brief cut there to count to make sure I was right. But yes, we have 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 Pokemon. We have 11 energy, so that's 26. 33, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 41, 42, 44, 45, 46, 47, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now we have 60 cards. My mistake. I don't know how that 8th energy got in there. My mistake. I apologize. But anyway, yes, it's 7 psychic energy and 4 double colorless energy. So more than enough energy to make things happen. And again, if you have to, you can always rely on Tapu Lele's energy drive if you run into some issues to hit for 20 damage times the amount of energy. You got 2 double colorless attached. You're doing 80 just on your side alone. Whatever your opponent has, chances are they have 2 or 3 on it. So you're hitting for even more damage. All right, guys, that is going to do it for the Garbodor Drampa deck. It's pretty darn powerful. I think that it's definitely something you're going to see being played at League Cups, League Challenges. Maybe you might even see it at Regionals. Who knows? Maybe even National, or not Nationals, I'm sorry. ICs, as they're now being called. So definitely be prepared for it. Figure out a way to work around it. And if you're not going to play it, and if you are going to play it, be prepared to take some seriously powerful Pokemon here and definitely going to get some wins with this thing, that's for sure. All right, guys, well, that is going to do it for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to hit that like button, comment down below, subscribe for more TCG content, and remember, you can always take this deck and change it up any way you like to suit your playing style. This is just one particular list. If you don't like a card, feel free to switch it out and make it work for yourself. All right, guys, that's going to do it for Deck Tech Thursday. I'm Professor K for the Pokemon Evolutionaries. You all take care. Have a great day.